Good afternoon everyone and welcome back to the Wonderland Asylum. We are back today with issue 3 of Hachette Partworks, Build the Titanic. So here is issue 3. Again, some more articles about Titanic, stories about the ship herself, the wireless room, and what we're working on in this issue is the first engine parts. Also comes with one of the smoke generators, and we will be testing that just at the end. So instructions again, we're assembling the cylinders, the kind of rotary parts. We've got the crankshaft and all the crank rods and everything like that. Very detailed, and these all move. These all spin. We do need a little bit of glue to attach the crank pulley onto it at the end, and then, as I say, we will be testing the smoke generator. So stick around at the end for that. We also still have our leaflets that we're getting every single time. This just tells us what to expect in issue 4 and 5. You can see issue 4, we're extending out the hull that we've already started working on. And issue 5 is the bottom section of the other side of the prow. So it does show, if you can see there, that I was correct. They will attach together with screws, but you can see it's kind of square holes that you'll hopefully attach a plate over to hide the screws on the other side. Anyway, we're not working on that just now. We're working on issue 3, and as you see, that's all the parts there to make the engines, and there we have the smoke generator. I do have a pair of Amazon batteries ready to go, so we can test this at the end. The other thing you'll need is a damp paper towel. So, without further babble, let's get started. So the first thing we need are the cylinders, which look like that. These are metal, they're very nice. The colour is actually quite accurate, so these won't require any painting, so that's all good. And you can see just on the inside they're labelled R1, R2, R3 and R4, and we're going to be attaching to them I suppose the cylinder heads almost, I don't know, but they are also labelled, you can see in there, that one's labelled R1, so you've got R1, R2, R3 and R4, and all we're doing, as you can see, there are 2 holes in this part, and it lines up with the hole for the screw and the locating peg, and you just push them together like that, and they're going to be secured by these screws, which are BM screws. We also get a bag of CM screws in this pack, but we're not using them at the moment. So again, I'll tell you how this goes in, because we are screwing into metal. It does say if the screws are going in very hard, you may wish to use some lubricating oil, but no, that was absolutely fine. So you can see that goes in there like that, and then R2 goes in right next to it. Again, another one of these screws. I must say, I do like the way they've done it. They've printed the cylinder and the matching head with the label R1, R2, R3 and R4, really to make it as foolproof as possible. And there we go, that's that one in. Then R3 goes into that hole there. Just line up another screw. Screw it in nice and tight, and then finally R4 goes right on the end there, just like that. As I say, Hachette are very good at giving you spare screws, so if you want to keep them in case you lose screws or break screws later, you can use a pillbox to keep them organised, because I say that's from issue 1 we got AM screws. From issue 2 we've now got BM and CM screws, so it's an idea to keep them labelled. You can use a pillbox to organise them. But as I say, they do give you extra ones in every issue, so you will end up with a ton left over. You should see the collection I've got for Bismarck. But that's what that looks like. Now the next stage is they want us to do the exact same with the left side of the cylinder. And again, it is labelled L1, L2, L3 and L4 just on these points there. And we're just attaching the opposite sides of these pieces. Now I'm not going to make you watch me do that, so by the magic of editing I will do that and we'll be back in a second. Okay. And that's the left side looking like that. The important thing to remember is on the right side we went 4, 3, 2, 1, and on the left side, because these are pairing together, we went 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you marry these up, 1 will go to 1, 2 will go to 2, 3 will go to 3, and 4 will go to 4, etc. Okay, so the next thing is wanting us to do is to get the bottom part of the connecting rod and the top part of the connecting rod and just clip these together like that, and they go on quite nicely. These are very, very flexible because obviously this whole mechanism moves, and when these are connected to the crank pulley, the motor will turn that and it will allow the pistons to go up and down. So there are 4 of these, and obviously when we come to build the other side of the engine, there will be 4 on that side too. Now, I'm just checking I'm doing this the right way. Yes I am, that's fine. Did these the wrong way round. Not sure it particularly matters, but I want to make sure it's done the same way as it is in the pictures. So what I'll do is I'll fix these before I do the next stage. But what you're wanting is the hook facing up the way and this hook facing up the way, and to clip them together like that. I did the first 2 wrong because I didn't check. So they're just sitting like that. And next we are dealing with the crank shaft itself. So I'll fix these, 2 seconds. No, looks like once they're in, they're in. So I'm not going to mess about with them in case I break them, but just bear in mind that I've done 2 of these wrong. Super! So what we're doing then is we're taking the crankshaft itself, and now it's very important to look at the pictures because it tells you which one of these sections here we're attaching the rods to. So the first one we're wanting is if we turn the shaft so it's facing like that. Okay, so we lie it down like this. We're wanting the first rod to click in here at the end like that. We're then missing 1, and the second rod is connecting to the third clip in, just like that. The third rod, we're now missing 2, and it's connecting to this one here. And then finally the fourth one is connecting to this final one at the end. Now your only real point of reference on the crankshaft is this piece here, which is where the crank pulley fixes over. Okay, so lying that down, the next thing we're going to be doing is putting this all together. So I'll be back with you in just a tick. Okay, so now we get the left side of the cylinder, the ones that are labelled with the L, and lie it down like this. Then we're getting the crankshaft we just worked on and lying it along here, making sure that all the connecting rods go inside the cylinders. So there are little troughs for them to sit in. So what we're doing is just making sure that they are sitting inside the little holes that are made for them. Yep, that one's fine. Because there's going to be a bracket to hold all this in place anyway. So, yeah, this is all a bit fiddly just now, but we're now going to piece the other side into it, which should make it slightly easier. It's not all that easy when it's all laid down like this, because obviously there's nowhere for the crankshaft itself to sit while you're messing about with all these bits, but they should sit in reasonably well. I'm just going to move that slightly over a bit, and then get my tweezers just to drop the rods into place. As I say, it doesn't particularly want to sit all that well at the moment, but again, all you're trying to make sure is that nothing's going to get stuck or held up when you put the rest of it together, because obviously, as I say, this is going to rotate, so if anything is stuck, your engine isn't going to work properly. Yeah, that's in like that, that's in like that, perfect. Okay, and then what we're doing is taking the other side of the cylinder block and lining up the pins, and it's a simple push to fit. Now, it's easier said than done the way they've done this, because the crankshaft itself, you're having to try and push these bits together while keeping the rods in their slots. But once it starts to go in, yeah, that's us. We're all good. Okie dokie. And that's that all fitted together. So now I need to get the brackets out, so I'll get all that together and I'll be back in just a sec. Okay, so now we have the two brackets which are labelled L and M in the instructions. Now, the easiest way to tell which one's going where is L is slightly longer than M is. The shorter one goes on the side that the crank pulley is going to go on, so this side, you can see by the little connecting nub there. So, all we're doing is pushing this up. It tells you to turn the cranks to a horizontal position so they're all sitting at the same level. Then all we're doing is making sure we line this up and pushing the two sections in like that, and the exact same at the other side. Make sure the crank shaft is sitting in the bracket and push it on, and that should hold kind of your crankshaft into position just like that. Okay. Now the next thing we're doing is there are two more brackets which fit over the top, and obviously they're keyed to whatever size the other one is. So this one first will go in the shorter bracket, and it goes, you can see there's a kind of beveled section on one side. That one goes in towards the actual engine itself. So it sits on top there, and it's been secured in by the CM screws that I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to try and get the first screw in here. Don't need to tighten it all the way down straight away. It might be easier to put all the screws in before we fully tighten them. Again, oh, see, 'cause that's what can happen. But fortunately the screw fell in its hole, so I'll be able to screw it in just enough to pin everything together. again, the bracket for the other side just goes over the top with the end cap facing away from the engine, so it will stop the crank moving along the slots. So that should pin the crankshaft in place, and as I say, to pin it on the other side we're about to attach the crank pulley as well. There we go. Very impressed with the engine detailing so far. So that looks just like that with those screwed in. You can see the crank pulleys nicely attached like that. Yeah, sorry, the crankshaft, not the crank pulley. Should know better. I'm used to building, well, not building, but I'm used to working in my own car. So, and the next bit is the crank pulley. Now this is the only bit. See that there, nice green colour, and it is keyed, so it will only fit on one way. But they do want us to put a little glue. Now they recommend that you use a cyanoacrylate glue, a CA glue. I'll show you the one I use in just a moment. So just dab a little bit of glue on the end. Be very careful, you don't want too much. That's why I put my glue on like this. All this is essentially is a pin vise, and I have put a straightened paper clip in the end to let me apply the glue more precisely. So line the shaped section up with the pulley, put it on like that, and you can see the crankshaft turns perfectly, just like that. I think that looks fantastic. Really impressed with how the engine section's looking, fits together really well too. So yeah, really impressed with that. Now the only other thing we have to do, that's us complete for the engine, is we're going to test the smoke generator. So I will go and get the pieces for that, and I'll be back in just a sec again. Okay, so now for just a quick test of the smoke generator. You can see you put the metal disc with the wire side up onto a damp cloth. I'm using some AAA Amazon rechargeable batteries, and you just push the button in. You can hear it, and after a few seconds some steam should start to appear. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but there's definitely steam appearing. Yeah. I hope it'll work better in the actual model, but yeah. Okie dokie. So yeah, the smoke generator works as well, though I don't know how clearly it came through on the camera. Okay, so that's us done for issue 3 of the Titanic. As I say, issue 4 and 5 should be coming soon, and they're all based on the hull. So the ship will be getting a lot bigger. The other thing I'm going to be doing is I've been sent a 3D printed hatch replacement from, you can see there, Mr. Fusion Designs. Now this obviously replaces the hatch cover that came with the Hachette version, which I mentioned before. It's very plain and not very accurate. So now obviously this is a 3D printed part. I'm going to do a full separate review video of this and how much better it is than the original, and obviously how I'm going to paint it, etc. So that will be coming just soon. But yeah, thanks for watching. Again, go down in the comments, leave any comments or questions that you may have. But again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you for the next one.